Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Lana.
Today is Blue Fashion Day. It just worked out this way.
Okay.
We're all in blue. This is what Lana wore to work today.
Okay.
Super fancy.
Super fancy.
Very nice. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Goldman Sachs estimate of a recession, because the last bastion for the crashers has been the recession that's getting ready to happen. Now, what people don't realize is in 2022, we actually had a recession. Mm-hmm. 2 quarters of negative growth.
Right.
But it got waved off. Officially, they just said, we're not going to call it a recession because we have an election that we're trying to win. And because the economy was doing pretty good, even though it was 2 quarters of negative growth, which has been the only ever indication of a recession. It's just been 2 quarters of negative growth, period, end of story.
Right. So there is a recession coming. So we're going to put that out there.
It's coming.
It is coming. So the question is, when is it coming? So what does Goldman Sachs think about this?
Goldman Sachs announced in the note, it cut its judgmental probability that the U.S. will enter a recession down to a 25% chance. This is over the next 12 whole months.
Okay. So what they did is they had one of those spinny things.
Spinny thing.
And
it's a technical term.
The spinny things, where they just swiped the arrow, and the arrow went around, and it stopped on before 35%. Now it stopped on 25%, so they called it.
Okay. So when Goldman Sachs and these other companies guess and put out data because they're trying to manage their billions or trillions of dollars of their clients' portfolios.
Right.
So trying to make decisions about where we are in these boom and bust cycles, because that makes decision on mostly stock investing. Mm-hmm. Like they really don't care about what's going on with housing because zero people try to time the housing market. Okay. But they're trying to time the stock market and figure out what should they be in bonds, should be in stock, should they be in cash, should they be in some other random stuff, right? Is there an opportunity over 10 years to invest over long-term in real estate, or maybe not with interest rates high, right?
Right.
Okay. So this is the reasoning for this, okay? The investment banking company also wrote that most of the news in the labor market has remained positive. The researchers explain that for more than a year, the U.S. has been able to create large numbers of jobs while keeping unemployment rate very close to its pre-pandemic level of 3.5%. Okay, so there's nothing magical, about a recession where when you turn on the TV and you see the words that we're officially in a recession, that you just say, call the agent, we're being foreclosed tomorrow. Because the recession, randomly, 1 in every 100 houses gets foreclosed.
Right.
To cool the economy off.
So a recession, for most people, it doesn't mean anything. Okay, most of us still get up in the morning, go to work, come home, go to the grocery store, do all the things that we normally do. So for most of us, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It might mean something if you're in particular sectors that are affected by the recession, but very few people are actually affected in a meaningful way by the recession. Most of us are not. We just go about living our lives.
Yeah. Another quote from the article, the authors wrote that improving supply chains and decreasing rent prices should show that inflation could be coming down in the second half of 2023, noting they expect it to come down to 3.7% by December. 3.7% is literally where we were in 2019, 2018. I mean, that's not far off. The goal is 2%, but it jumps into the threes and nobody freaks out about it. Maybe they raise interest rates a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So we know that interest rates right now are artificially high, right? We know that when you're looking at bond rates, when you're looking at T-bills and that sort of thing, we know that interest rates for mortgages should be right around 5.5, or give or take. But they're more than a point more than that right now. So things just need to kind of settle down, and people need to cool their jets, and then things will get back to normal. Now, what does normal look like? Well, probably not for another maybe close to a year, give or take. But that's coming. Things will settle down.
We had a great run from like 1950 to 1963. where we had a lot of prosperity in the US and interest rates were very low and the economy was doing fantastic. And then we went into a war cycle where there was a war, and then we came out of that war into a crisis of an oil crisis. There were still wars going on, and we kind of went through this almost 20-year cycle of really horrendous inflation and all this stuff. And of course, that's back when interest rates were as high as 18%. And then we transitioned back to more normal boom and bust. We had a run up and a decline, a run up and decline. Then we had the Great Financial Crisis, which was probably the second largest significant event in the last 100 years, not counting the Great Depression from the 1930s. We are really in the middle of a very long expansion period where interest rates have been held low because we are growing. We have new technologies, we have eVTOLs like this. We're starting to flip over to a fully electric economy. Like the Model Y was the #1 selling car in the world. And we got this hiccup in the middle called COVID. And COVID basically triggered, it was a catalyst. What does a catalyst mean when I say catalyst? Like, what does that mean?
It's the triggering event. It's the thing that is the flashpoint.
There you go. Yeah. People, it was a flashpoint for changing the model for how people work. And the model changed to living in a city, 4 people in an apartment, to let's just go buy a house. And demand for housing has skyrocketed. And it doesn't look like it's waning. And the other problem is we're creating households still at a much faster rate than we're building homes.
Right. So, I mean, if home builders stay on pace to build, let's say, 1 million homes a year, which they're not on pace to do that, but if they were, it would take 10 years for them to catch up. So that's not any time in the near future, and they're not even on pace to do that. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long this expansion might be. So that's something to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, usually just resale homes, there's usually 3.5-4 million of those purchased every year. We're kind of in the low 3 range just because there's not enough inventory right now. So, and there is, and you just saw, what Goldman Sachs said, everyone's working. So everyone's got money. And yes, I'm not going to question the affordability thing, but you cannot just say, well, but who can afford a $400,000 house and that huge $2,300 a month payment? That's crazy. A lot of people can afford that house. Like a lot of people can afford that house. You'd be surprised how many people can afford the house.
Well, and not to mention that's probably the going rate for a majority of homes for rent, too. So that's something to keep in mind. Well, would you rather pay that amount in rent or in a mortgage payment? So clearly, a mortgage payment is much more attractive than rent because a mortgage payment, you get the income tax deduction for the interest.
That's one.
You get to deduct property taxes, and of course, you get to build equity. So,
principal reduction.
Right.
Yeah, we did. I just looked at a loan, and the principal reduction every month, it was a bigger house, but the principal reduction every month was $2,500.
Right.
So it's like, yes, it's expensive. It's a huge payment, but you're reducing principal $2,500 every month. So, that's like and it's for an average home, it's probably not that. It's probably $300
right
for the first month. But still, if you go, well, rents are $300 less, I should rent. No, you should pay the $300 more in mortgage and reduce your loan balance.
Right.
And then in a year or two, refi.
Right. So, do you see the clouds of a recession gathering, or do you think that the economy is in pretty decent shape? What do you see on the horizon? We'd like to know. Tell us what you think. Tell us where you're watching from. We like hearing from you. Please be nice to one another in the comments. If this was interesting, valuable, or in any way entertaining, please like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can entertain you again. Share the video, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.